Platform sharing can be a good thing or a bad thing, but in the case of the Volkswagen Audi Group's MLB Evo architecture, it is a good thing because it has brought us a huge lineup of a variety of different SUVs to pick from. We're talking anything from ordinary mainstream to luxury to straight up performance SUVs. Audi Q7, Porsche Cayenne, Bentley Bentayga, the Audi Q8, the Lamborghini Urus. They're all technically related, and what we have here today is the Audi SQ8. You can technically think of this 2021 SQ8 as the budget version of the Lamborghini Urus because it has a 4-liter twin-turbo V8. It's on the same architecture, although it's probably technically the clearance rack Urus because there is the RSQ8, which is truly a slightly lower tier Urus. Regardless, this thing is pretty awesome. 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 500 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque. So how does that stack up in this lineup of vehicles? Well, the base Q8 starts at 355 and 369. The RS Q8 at the very top is 591 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque. So this SQ8 sits right there in the middle. And at the very, very top, you have the Lamborghini Urus, which makes 641 horsepower, but that also costs more than twice the price of this SQ8. In terms of exterior styling, the Q8 is the more sporty, aggressive version of the Q7 platform. Think about how the A5 compares to the A4, the A7 compares to the A6. You're sacrificing some cargo space, some passenger space for a more stylistic exterior. It's a little more sporty, and it shows on the front end. Look at it, it's a lot more aggressive. The S line here gets blacked out with the black optics package. We have different headlights, much more aggressive, larger grille up front. We have unique 22-inch wheels that are upgraded on this car, carbon fiber mirror caps. Around back, signature S styling is quad exhaust tips, more blacked out badging there, and the awesome LED light bar that does the whole little dance when you unlock the Q8 SQ8. On the inside, the SQ8 is very, very nice. It feels similar to the SQ7 that I was driving because it is essentially the same thing on the inside, the same MMI touchscreens, the same virtual cockpit. This is finished in a really nice red leather with the cross stitching for the S model. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we hop in the vehicle. A couple other things to note with like the powertrain and chassis. You have quattro all-wheel drive, obviously, with a fixed torque split. You can have rear wheel steering on this vehicle, adjustable S-Tune air suspension that goes from dynamic ride height now to off-road, which is actually very, very lifted. It's very cool with the adjustable air suspension. Let's see what else. ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, 0 to 60 claimed in 4.3 seconds, and it can tow up to 7,700 pounds. With that, let's hop in the car, start her up, and head out for a drive. Alright, in the SQ8, I've been playing around with comfort and dynamic. The roads are smoothing out a bit, so let's throw this back into dynamic and see how it feels. In terms of the interior, it's very, very nice. It's the exact same as any brand new Q7, Q8, SQ7, A7, A6, A8. It's the same screen layout, the same virtual cockpit, the same dual touchscreen MMI with the climate controls on the bottom. We've got navigation, entertainment stuff pulled up on the top. Virtual cockpit is the same as it when it launched. It's plenty of information. It looks very, very nice. But with a 500 horsepower V8, and I'm in dynamic mode, so let's see how it drives first. You have rear wheel steering, which really does help the nimbleness for such a large SUV. When I was moving around in the showroom, it was tight. I was doing like 5-point turns. You could actually tell that it would help virtually shorten the wheelbase and make it a bit easier to maneuver such a large vehicle. And then 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds is what Audi claims. I did see that Car and Driver said they were able to do 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds as tested, which is very quick. I already can tell. I mean, this feels as quick as my RS7. It weighs a lot more than my 2016 RS7, but makes a lot more torque, a little less horsepower. But again, it's the similar 4-liter twin-turbo V8 recipe, just in a larger, heavier vehicle. Honestly, this is like more than enough that you would ever need in terms of performance in your SUV. The only reason you get an RSQ8 is if you have a neighbor with an SVR Range Rover and somebody else has got a G63 AMG and you got to be able to flex on them or put Mustang GT owners and Camaro SSs back into their boxes of being ashamed of the performance of their cars. I don't know. This is like the perfect combination of all of it. Let's see how this sounds. Not bad. Ooh, it's a big boy. Definitely heavy at 5,500 pounds. That adaptive air suspension will be able to help. I'm in dynamic mode, so it drops the suspension ride height down a bit. Actually, quite a bit, as we demonstrated in the other video. Let's see, it's getting on Lakeshore Drive. Ooh. So I'm in full dynamic mode now with manual transmission shifting, and this ZF 8-speed will still rip off plenty of quick shifts. 500 horsepower is a lot in an SUV. And I have this mental block of where I always like having the top tier vehicle. I picked my RS7. I didn't think about the S7 because I liked having the most aggressive, most hardcore, the most amount of carbon fiber, all that type of stuff. And honestly, some of that's a little bit vain, but at the same time, you want the best of the engineering the company has to offer. But with something like an SUV that's more often or not just the daily driver, the more practical vehicle, the all year round, the one that you take to the grocery store, do you need almost 600 horsepower in an RSQ8? This is the nice middle tier because you save a good amount of money. In terms of value, the RSQ8's like, I think, 115,000 starting, and once I was done optioning the way I wanted it, it was almost 140 grand. I think it was $137,000, which is healthy amount of money. Well, compared to the Urus, that's still a nice discount. But this car, as option at $100,000, where it starts down at, I believe, just under $90,000 for a Premium Plus Prestige, and you load on some options and get into that 100, 105 price range. That's 30 grand savings over an RSQ8 as I had an option, and you get like 85-90% of the experience. You just are missing that little bit of power up top and the little R badge up front. This, I think, is that nice midpoint. It's more than the Q8. If you feel the Q8's underpowered at 355 horsepower and the RS is overkill with all the fancy expensive carbon fiber and all the extra stuff you don't necessarily need, you get the SQ8, and that's what the S badge has always done. That's what the S4 was that I had, the B8.5 S4. It was great all around daily. It was fun, quick to drive, sporty. It's that balance. But this still has legitimate handling credentials. You can get that Sport Pack, which I think is just under $6,000, and it brings the 48-volt active anti-roll bars, a limited slip rear differential, and red calipers, because red calipers means sporty. But that's for a 5,500-pound SUV. Looks, I'm not entirely, I think, fallen in love with the front end of the SQ8. The back looks really cool. The LED lights do the really cool thing. It's definitely cooler than SQ7, which sometimes from certain angles does look a little bit minivan-like. The Q8's definitely sporty. I need to drive an RSQ8 to see if it's actually worth it. But, I mean, from first experience, this is epic. This is great. Oh, man. This thing will grip. Whew. Yeah. That is 500 horsepower, even though it weighs 5,500 pounds. It gets up and moves. This is what I expected. I drove the SQ7 and it was awesome. It did feel a little bit bigger and a little heavier. It might be just psychological knowing that this is the SQ8, so it's sportier feeling. But I mean, they're very, very similar when you're just cruising around normally. Yeah, you have less space out back, but otherwise they are platform shared. Compared to the Lamborghini Urus, we can circle back to that. Does this feel like a budget Urus? Honestly, after driving it a bit, the Urus feels like a over-the-top Lamborghini-ified Audi SQ8, which probably is not as good for the Lamborghini, but that's what happens when you do the platform sharing. You get a lot of the experience of this for way less than half the price of an Urus. Now, again, it's a Lamborghini versus an Audi, and an Audi S model. This is not even the RSQ8. So again, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but the credentials of this car are quite impressive. It'll do the comfort. Put this back into comfort mode. It has the off-road ride height, which is quite impressive, actually. Even though it's on 22-inch wheels, theoretically, you could ford a small river. The luxury from a daily standpoint, air suspension, I love. It rides comfortably, a mountain of torque, a great responding ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, all the driver assist and luxury features you want. There's not really much. Oh, I would have probably optioned the massage seats because massage seats are always nice, but like that's being really, really picky. It's a good platform. It looks cool. It sounds good. Nice distant rumble out of the back from that 4-liter twin-turbo V8. And the last thing I will leave you with is I was really annoyed when they put a V6 in the S6 and S7. It's slower than the previous gen S6 and S7 with a V6 now. I was like, why are we going backwards? But now they've made the SQ7 and the SQ8 with the 4-liter twin-turbo V8. And to me, that is more so the replacement to what the S6 and S7 represented. A more attainable, mid-tier, twin-turbo V8 luxury vehicle that was practical for all year-round use. Now, this is still expensive, but I think you're getting a lot for your money when you think about what the RSQ8 and the Urus cost. There is the SQ8. Make sure you guys check out the interior and details and technology walk around video. This vehicle is for sale at Fletcher Jones Audi. Check it out if you want to pick up a 500 horsepower Audi SUV to take you through this upcoming winter. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Appreciate all the support. Thanks for watching.